Good morning, everybody. Natalie coming to live. Spirit and coffee. Got my coffee here. Cheers. So lovely. Let's get started. Um, it's kind of funny because I'm like, usually I have an idea of what I'm going to talk about. And as you know, I just go on and on and on and on. And I think before I was talking about, reading from a book, giving some insights or whatnot. Good morning, Jeff. And so, today I was like, what am I going to talk about? Am I going to get a book? But I don't really feel like it. So literally just want to, good morning, radio projects, just come on here and say, good morning. How are you doing? How is your life? What are you up to? You can comment. Typically, people don't comment, though. That's the funny part. It's like most people just stay quiet or silent. And I don't know if they're even listening half the time. Like, are they listening or are they just, what's going on? Um, but how are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? It's Friday. Do you guys have plans? Good morning, Goofy. Goofy. I love Goofy. Goofy's my favorite character, by the way. Um, good morning, FG. A, B, C. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Do, re, mi, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3. Baby, you and me. I'm ready to go dancing, okay? And just let loose, right? And just connect to the music, and me, I can find a topic to talk about all the time or anytime. And so connecting to music. So I was talking to a friend yesterday, my friend in India, and I was like, do you like to dance? And here's the cool thing in India, let's party. Yes. In India, what I love about India, hey Katya, good morning, is that in India, um, what's really cool, if you go to like a dance place, everyone's dancing, right? In America, it's a little bit different. Some people are very uncomfortable. They don't want to get out there. And so for me, I love music and I love connecting to music. So you're going to see me, if I'm ever in a place where there's music, you're never going to see me off the dance floor. I'm going to be on there from start to finish. Unless I need the restroom or maybe get a drink of water, but typically start to finish on the dance floor. And there's this thing about connecting to the music, right? And the feeling and the sensation to hearing the vibration of the music. And so it's funny because people don't realize that they typically, right, will do drugs. Okay, drugs like ayahuasca, shrooms, all of this stuff that helps them feel this connection, right? The connection to what? Okay, the connection to what they feel is the divine. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not a full connection to the divine source, but I'm going to say that it's hindered. There, you can have a direct connection to divine source and get that euphoric sense of feeling through various other means. It doesn't have to be through some psychedelic, drug or whatever to get you there, right? You can actually get that physical sensation through music and vibration. And also, like Katya knows, drumming, right? Drumming circles. Drumming circles are ancient practice in many cultures. And so I'm all, let's party. And then I'm talking about, being in altered states of consciousness, which, most people tend to associate to some sort of like a psychedelic substance, a drug. I don't want to say a drug, but people call it medicine. And they want to connect to the divine. That's why they do it, because they're wanting to have some experience that connects them to something even greater than themselves, right? That they can feel the connection to this, I don't know, ethereal. I don't know if that's the right word. Okay. Anyway, if it's not, you can tell me, guys, that's wrong. um, I'm okay with being wrong about stuff. I don't mind that. but again, the connection. So me lately and what I've been feeling just kind of like yesterday, day before, is that really wanting to connect to that feeling, right? That feeling of like, it's almost like a freedom. It's sensual in some ways too. It's sensual in that it's almost primal, right? And at the root chakra, or at the base, right, of our chakra system, a root, is where it's the sexual pleasure center, right? It's like all of that, right? And that sort of comes to life. And there's like rites of passage, like understanding our sexuality, sensuality, how that plays a role in our connection to the divine and to our higher self, right? So if we looked in history, you know, talking, or even you know, sexual things, right? Were frowned upon, like, you know, don't talk about it, it's done behind closed doors. um and there's other ways to express that part of yourself, that sensuality, that connection that's primal, because it is within us. It's in the root. Obviously it's in us. If it wasn't in us, people wouldn't be having babies. And there would be no population. So, but I think that this is another subject that most people tend to shy from. And I think it's because it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable. You know, you're made wrong. People keep it in secret. Now, and I think that that's why there's such a perversion around, you know, sexuality, and sensuality. But we can connect to that sensation, and that really is part of the sensation that we experience when people take psychedelics, right? Or when they're connecting to that inner, primal feeling. And I'm just going to call it primal because it really is. It's really the root and the base of who we are, and and connecting to that, truly connecting to it for ourselves. Not that we have to go out and, oh, well, I need to do this and that, but connecting to our true inner essence of our sensuality, our sexuality, that kind of thing. And me, music, right, is a way that I connect to that feeling, that primal feeling. It opens up, and it's almost like this. And I'm going to say it on here. I've never said anything like this. It's like a cosmic orgasm, right? Which is not not in a sexual way, but in a primal, um, interconnection. It's like a dance. It's almost like the yin and yang. Like you're moving, the feeling and the movement in your body, right? Is that connection to something greater, and you could feel the pulsation in your heart, right? And in your movement. And so for me, connecting to music is huge. Dancing in with music, huge. And I love it because I don't need it's like I don't need that outside stimulus, right? I can find it within myself and rise it above. And what does it do for me? It allows me to feel that pulsation of the human connection. It's kind of this, I don't even know the words to describe it. For the first time I'm trying to describe it, to be honest with you. And not sure how it's, like I said, I'm just going to open my mouth and start talking, and this is what's coming out, right? It's like word vomit. It's like, Natalie, you never talked about that kind, but that's part of alchemy, right? We don't deny any part of alchemy. We just really are aware of it. And there's this awareness to, um, the connection to that there's like this internal sensation and feeling, right, that comes within. Music is the voice of God, the goddess, and the cosmic vibration. Yes. Yeah, me too, dance sisters. Yes. So yes, and it is the voice. And but there's this connection and primal feeling is what I'm saying. Like we have the ability to experience what that feels like. So if you see me on the dance floor, it's almost like I'm just in my body, and I'm with me, and I'm with something divine and greater than me, and the vibrations and the frequencies. And I don't need an outside stimulus to feel good about what's happening in my body. So it's almost like a yawn in a way too. Like yawning is that sensation you can't really describe, you know, when you just wake up in the morning and you're like, and you just like stretch and you're like, oh, and then you just feel so good, right? And that stretch is just like, oh, and then you just like let it out. They call it dynamic tension, which I just found out in my kung fu class, right? It's where you're you're going like this, and then you're just releasing the pressure, right? It's like you're holding on to the pressure and then you're releasing the pressure. And it's almost orgasmic, and it is really, honestly. So, connecting to that feeling and sensation doesn't have to come from some outside source. It's rooted within you. You have it within you. But I know people go on journeys, right? Ayahuasca, do peyote. There's several things that you can do in ceremony and stuff like that, to get the sensation. But there's other ways, like, even Katya knows. I was talking to her the other day about the Sufis, right? Sufis spin in circles. Well, notice when you were a kid, like you would get on. Even when we were kids, we were trying to connect to that psychedelic feeling, obviously. But we would get on the merry-go-round. And I don't know if you guys remember merry-go-rounds. I don't even think they have them anymore. I mean, I got super sick when I was a kid on a merry-go-round. I didn't like it. After a while, I was like seasick, and I'm like, I can't do this, right? But typically, that's what you're doing is you're spinning so much, so hard, that you have some sort of experience that you're like, ooh, and it sort of connects you into something, um, like something big and great and, greater. Good morning, Ignacio. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while. So cheers to you for coming on today. But I think that there's these things that we could talk about in a very professional way, in a way that we can open up a dialogue where people feel uncomfortable, right? I think there's a lot of things that people feel uncomfortable talking about, and because they don't want to be judged, right? It's like, well, if we talk about our sexuality or sensuality, um, good morning, Roberto. Then I'm going to be judged for that, or I'm going to be looked at as less than, or whatever it is, right? But there's other ways to talk about it and to open up that space for yourself. And I think we could do it in a responsible way that even heals, right? Humanity. And it's kind of funny because it's more going into this understanding of sexuality and sensuality, and how do we interconnect that with our own bodies, right? How do we call forth that energy and really foster it? And see, this is what happens, is that people it's strangled, and then perversion happens, right? And so we have these things where it comes out in a distorted sort of way, and it's because nobody's sat down and we don't, there's no talks. Who has talks? They don't have talks about this. Not with not with children. Not as you get older, right? It's just kind of like, go out there and I was watching what was the show? Bridgetown. I can't remember it. And I watched it, right? It's a very Cinderella type story. So I was like, let me watch this and see. And the women, right, weren't told what was going to happen when they got married and then they actually engaged in sexual relations. They didn't even know. And children don't know, right? I mean, so the conversations that are happening, there's not this dialogue to say, this is what it is, this is what happens, this is what it means. And that conversation is critical, right? And that also helps people be aware of predators, right? That are going to force someone into something they don't want to do. And then we have a distortion, right? And I've done a lot, like I told you guys, I've done a lot of work in the sex trafficking and the children, and I've done a lot of prayer for them. And you have these people that are distorting the very act of what can be something sacred and beautiful. Why? Because they were never taught, right? And that the people or the children that are falling victim to this sort of distortion, right? And this is the shadow side of it, is that they don't have an understanding of how, I'm sure they're saying no or whatever, but they can't see the signs. They don't know. They may be naive, right? When we were kids, we were like, okay, don't talk to strangers, this and that and the other. But never were we told why, right? Like, it was just like, it's bad. They can take you. Well, what would happen to me? I don't know. They murder me, or what are they going to do? So it becomes distorted. But if we adults, right, really tapped into our sensuality and understood that our sexuality and sensuality and our primal feelings of that are rooted in us, and that we can explore that internally without having to get any external factor. And that really is sort of the base. If you looked at even in the chakra system, when I do Kundalini, so at the base here, right, and here, that these two connect. And there's things that they do. So like for women themselves, right, they'll do Kegels, right? And so that right there, it's not just a practice of, oh, I've got to like do this for my whatever. It's not about that. It's being able to hold it and to connect to the third eye, because when you do, you can feel the sensation of the third eye open. It's pretty cool, actually, when you start to do it, the feeling and sensation, and you can start to move the energy up and around. Even men can do this, right? And that's a practice in Kundalini. And as the energy flows, it goes like this. And it opens up and you synergize the internal part. And that's the Kundalini, right? Where you have the energies flow up, and they flow up and through you. And it's a beautiful thing, right? It's your sexual opening, central opening. It's allowing you to connect to that internal energy, right? And people do it through dance, right? Like Katya say, dance sisters. Me, I do it through dance. I love it. I love to dance, and I can feel that internal connection and vibration, right? It's like when you start to move, and it's almost like you're in a trance, right? It puts you sort of in a trance. And I think today people, another thing is that people will turn to drugs to get that sensation. And then that's part of the reason why we have a drug problem too, right? Is that people want to feel that sensation. They want to feel it. They want to feel that connection to that higher self. And they don't know how to do it, only through drugs, because drugs give us that sort of false sense of that. And synthetic drugs especially. Now there's natural stuff that I would say I wouldn't say it's good to overuse it, but there's natural things like, and I don't want to say drugs, but psychedelics. And if you look back in history, in recent history, right, in New Mexico, actually, believe it or not, where we live in Albuquerque, they were doing tests in LSD and DMT, right? The spirit molecule or the God particle or whatever they call it, whatever it's called. And they were looking at it because, they wanted to learn like, well, what's released in the brain, chemical and all this stuff. That's a euphoric sensation. Good morning, Mel. That euphoric sensation that's being released, right, is that connection to what we feel like is God. That's that euphoric connection that we're feeling. And why are they trying to simulate it? Why are they trying? Well, because people want to feel connected. They want to feel inserted into it. It's almost like, okay, so we'll take sex out of it, like the actual way that humans actually have sexual interaction, right? But if you looked at the Coneheads, right, the movie The Coneheads, what did they do? They were connecting here, right, through their head. And that was more powerful. Why? Because it was almost an internal thing that was happening. It was like they were separate, but they were together. And it was like they were tapping into their own internal sensuality, their own internal vibration. Now, has society made that wrong? Yeah, of course they have. That's why, there's a lot of things that society has done, but it's human. It's part of our human experience. Again, alchemy doesn't deny it. And this is a subject I've never talked about. Never touched on this. This is a new one. Should be fun. Some people should be like, yay. And I think it's because most people are highly sexual. I don't want to say most people. I think a lot of people are highly sexual, and I don't know that there's a dialogue to talk about, just like there's not a dialogue to talk about, what I talked about the other day about anxiety and parents having buyer's remorse with their children. Those are just very deep conversations that people don't want to bring to the light, or they're embarrassed, or they think people are going to judge them, or there's something wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with them. Opening up the dialogue and being able to explain and express it starts the healing process, so that we can get to the really internal essence of what it is that we're seeking. We're seeking something, That's what it is. And although we say, yes, we believe in God or we believe in a higher spirit and whatever, we're still seeking something. It's like the journey. Everybody's still searching. If you weren't searching, you would just sit there in meditation and know. But no, we seek. We love the journey. We love the thrill. We love the roller coaster ride. And I think if Alfie is still on here, um, I don't know if you're still on here, but what Alfie said the other day, right? If we all painted something in one color, it'd be a boring world. And it absolutely would. Right? We're rainbow. We have different colors and different textures and different ways of experiencing the world, different feels and smells. Some people like this, some people don't like this. And we create our goulash. But you guys have the opportunity to connect into your own internal power. And this is part of it. And I love it. Like the drumming circles. I've never been to one. I would love to go to a drumming circle because I think a drumming circle becomes people's medicine. Why? Because it ignites that vibration, the frequencies inside. It allows that energy to move. That's why I love music. And if you look at some of the music that I love, I was just noticing it has a lot of drumming in it. And it's almost like the trance music. And I think, good morning, Charles. Trance music is totally bringing us back to what is trance music? It's kind of that primal dance stuff, right? And it's pretty cool. Hello, Nitin. Sing. And so again, tapping back into our sensuality, right? Our sexuality, and allowing that to flow and connecting the internal part of it. Because internally we have it and we don't need to get it on the external. Okay? You don't have to. You can, because of course if you're married, not married, whatever it is, like for me again, there's nothing that I haven't heard from individuals. People share with me everything, right? I'm not here, I'm not a judge. People have their ways of living. Is that, the sexual part of life is that, people will do that, of course, externally, but I'm saying that you have the connection internally to connect that way too. And it's a different experience. It's like it moves again from the root all the way up to the heart, all the way to the third eye and out. And it's almost like you expand. So it's almost, it's a cosmic orgasm in a way. I want to say it like that because it is. It's an explosion, right, of energy, your energy within you. Right? That's really all it is poof, it's an explosion and it explodes up and down and it all around. And then before you know it, it's everywhere. The energy is just floating everywhere. And you're able to expand bigger and connect, right? That's why with dancing, I was so part of it is when my bestie, who I haven't even seen get on here. How dare him? Anyway, he is a DJ and he's like, I love when you come. I like he invites me everything. He's like, I need you to bless the floor, this and that. And I was getting on stage and doing like lip singing kind of stuff. I wanted to be a drag queen, to be honest. But anyway, so I get up on stage and I'm dancing and singing and doing all these things, right? And he was like, oh my God, you're by yourself, you can fill up a whole stage. He's like, that's amazing. I said, well, good morning, Nat Snap. I said, well, yeah, but that's why. Because when we connect to that feeling, we expand our energy. And our energy radiates outward. And it's a cool, and also it's useful. I'll tell you this, when you connect to that sexual part of yourself, that central part, and you utilize it internally, you expand out. What also starts to happen is that you set up boundaries for energy that shouldn't be there. It's almost like your force field expands bigger. It's almost like a protection. Literally. It's a protection, spiritual protection, believe it or not, because your energy's so big, right, that people can't even penetrate the energy. right? Because you're what? Penetrating your own energy. And it gets so big that people are like, whoa, even some people will come and be like, wow, your energy is huge. And they're just like, okay, thank you. But I don't know if I want to mess with it because it's so big. I don't think I can match it, right? It's almost like a spiritual connection and a spiritual force and a spiritual protection. That's why it's important to talk about these things. And these are things that they don't tell us. They're not going to tell us. They say it's bad. Don't have sex. Don't do this. Don't do that. You're going to go to hell, blah, blah, blah. Instead of saying, okay, what is it? What does it mean to have the sensation, right? Like the feeling of wanting to connect that way. What does it mean? And how do I connect that way? And is there other ways besides just going out and finding somebody? Yes, absolutely. That's why people take, like I said, that's why people go on these drugs. They take these drugs or dance and do ceremony. Replace it with the ceremony. See what happens. See what happens for you. And allow that energy to radiate out and explode and see what happens. I mean, you'll trip out. I've tripped out before. I can literally just by that energy, right, and utilizing it the way I want, I can literally push people away and out from me, or I can draw people in, right? But typically, I'm sort of creating this almost like this orb of vibrational frequency around me. It's kind of like the Taurus. I don't know if you've seen the Taurus. The Taurus, not Taurus the bull, like the Taurus, but the Taurus is it's a geometrical shape, and it's basically I think it's the foundations for a lot of the engineering stuff and as well. So it has a lot of energy and power behind it. But it's almost like and it radiates the energy over and out. And I don't know what that's called. If somebody knows what that's called, you know, in the if you look at charts and stuff like that, where you see the energy flows out and around like this through the body and it goes out. I don't know what that's called, but that's like a shield of protection that you can wield that using that sexual energy, right? Internally and allowing yourself to let it roll through you up and out. That force field is so magnetic, so powerful. It's a beautiful force field. But again, are we talking about it? No. I think they have like different ways, like there's tantric, right? There's tantric sort of stuff, but that's with another partner. This is within you. At the time, it's important to be mindful of who entangles your energy with, especially sexually. Yes. Tordial flow. Okay, thank you. DMT. Yeah, the daily. Yes, the DMT. That's what I was talking about. We have it within ourselves, right? Yes, at this no, yes, Mal, that's not what I'm so it's not about what I'm saying is not to go out and sexually have a multiple partners. That's not what is about. It's about finding that sexually energy within yourself and utilizing it within yourself. In other words, taking that energy and connecting to it completely into the divine, right? So it's not about so hold on, let me see what this is. Yeah, there you go. Did you get it, Mel? That's what I was saying. This is not about going down having but if people want to do that, there's no judgment again. But that's what I've been talking about is using that. And so I'll go back, Mel, just a little bit so you can understand. So what I talked about prior, if you didn't hear, is that so there's a practice in Kundalini that we do where it's almost like a kegel, right? And you hold in the energy at your root. And the men do it too for Kundalini yoga. And you hold it. And when you close your eyes, you can feel your third eye moving with it. It's almost like your third eye clamps down, and so does your down there. I'm going to say because I don't know if there's family stuff, but there you're doing a kegel, right? And you're holding in the energy here, and you could feel it in your third eye. And then when you release it, it's like an explosion. So again, it's about your internal cosmic orgasm, not about getting external partners to help you with that. That's not what that's about, right? So again, it's the cosmic. and we don't talk about it. But if we understood this, right, then we would be, I think, a little bit mindful about who we allow in our space to penetrate, our space. So you're welcome, Mel. I'm glad. Yeah. So again, it's about you, right? It's about us being able to connect to our internal self, and also that feeling and sensation. And I get that feeling and sensation, like I was saying, when I dance, when I connect to music. It literally is just me and music. Right? It's like the yin and yang with music. It's like the music's moving me and I'm moving the music, and together we're having this dance, right? And that is what ceremony does for people. So why do people have sexual relations? To connect to the divine, right? There, if it's done correctly, right, with the person, your partner, the people you love, you are tantric, because the tantric, right, is really about that. It's about utilizing that energy to connect to the divine. It's not about having multiple partners. That's not what it's about. It's about you connecting to the divine using that particular methodology, with your root chakra. But if there's other ways to do it, that's what I'm saying. There's other ways. You can do it internally without having to do it that way, through music, through drumming, through ceremonies, through all that. Again, you can use stuff outside of you, which I choose to just do natural stuff. Like I don't need to go do, ayahuasca and shrooms and all these. I don't need to. Why? Because I know how to connect to that feeling without having any external thing, is what I'm saying. And when you find it within you, you start to heal yourself, and you start to feel the essence of God moving through you, right? That energy starts to flow through you, up and out, up and out, up and out, and then a force field starts to radiate around you. Impossible. What's impossible? You tell me what you think's impossible, Sina. I need to talk to you about Akashic records. Oh, okay, sure. We could talk about Akashic records. We can do that off this. What's impossible? Sina says impossible. I'm not sure what you mean, but yes, I am possible, if that's what you mean. I like that when they take the impossible and they put I'm possible. I am possible. You're absolutely correct, Sina. So there you have it. Interesting Friday. I think that's a fun Friday, and I think it's something that needs to be explored more, because I think people really, I think that's a subject that really is taboo still. It's taboo. And I think people are not open to talk about it because they're afraid, right, of the judgment again, or they're going to be looked at a certain way. But really, when we start to understand that we have the ability to connect internally to something and radiate it out, right? With the energy that you do, though, the trick here is just to be careful. What is your intention? Because it can draw in too, right? So you have to ask yourself, am I drawing in or am I radiating out? There's a difference, and it could do both, right? So it's the practice of it is be careful with your practice and know your intention before you just start going into stuff like this, because we don't know the consequences that will come with it if it's not used in an intentional way. So be very careful, because it's a very powerful energy. I mean, our primal energy is probably one of the most powerful, right? It sort of ignites the fire, which fire energy is really hard to work with. That's our divine will. So it can start to and then explode out. And then it's like, well, the unintended consequences we didn't realize. So be careful if you're going to practice it. But here's what I'm going to say for Friday, because I'm excited and I'm ready to go dancing. Okay. Exactly. That's why I need your guidance. Okay, Tony. Yes, we can get on a call. I think I might have some time after this. But it's to connect, right? And to dance and to just enjoy life. Go out and enjoy your life today, okay? Go out and connect to that energy. go out and allow yourself to radiate, right? Radiate and let it ripple through the cosmic waves of love and compassion and kindness and joy and freedom, and let it just radiate out of you. Okay. What is your what is happiness? Your definition? Well, I can give you my definition, the daily bands. The only thing with that is that does it matter? My definition of happiness matters to me, but it might not matter to you. So I can give you my definition, but what I would say is, why are you asking the question? Number one. Number two, do you have a definition of happiness? And your definition of happiness, is it functioning in a way that serves your higher purpose? So that's my question to you. Happiness to me can mean many different things. I don't have a definite definition. That would be putting it in a box and restricting it from being all that it could be, right? If I said, well, happiness is just uh, being content and peaceful. My happiness is just peace and tranquility. That means I've put happiness in a box, right? I've put a definitive on it, right? When we look at definition, it's definitive, right? That's that and that's it. So if I would say anything, if I didn't want to put it in a box, but put it in a box, right? This is like the the paradox between the two, is that I would say that happiness is free flowing. And that puts it in a box, but outside a box. Happiness is free flowing, meaning that it can come in several different forms, several different ways. The experience of it, the movement in it can be happiness. Because happiness can feel like joy, right? Good morning, David. But also, happiness can feel like freedom. Happiness can feel like a moment shared between an individual. Happiness can feel like my face is tightening and my stomach's hurting from laughing so much. And that would be the body experience, right? Or the somatic part of it. So I don't know that there's a definition that I have for sure on happiness. However, how you engage happiness, again, we'll look at it from this perspective. Rather than putting a definitive on it, how do you experience happiness? And I think that question, right, how do you experience happiness, is a richer way to engage the concept of happiness. I just wrote something the other day about engaging in a concept. We have a conceptual idea of what we think happiness, and people will write books. Well, this is happiness. Well, who gives a shit what you think? Sorry, that's not nice. But it's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that makes me happy. Like, that's not my happiness. How to tap into happiness, right? The reality is, it is subjective. Yes, it could be subjective. Yeah. Yes. So it's your internal dialogue in question. So for me, the way I work with people, and when I put my course together, the course is going to be an 8-week course, but it really is an opportunity for you to understand how to define your own life. We allowed Webster's dictionary to define our life. And if you look at definition, it's definitive. So we're like, oh, that's final. That's it. That must be fact. Well, no, right? You look it up in the dictionary, give you some generic idea about what happiness is. And people are like, yeah, okay, I accept it. Well, I don't accept it. I don't know. It's a concept that you can play with. It's not static. It's dynamic. It moves. It flows. It changes. Right. Basically, what you find internal happiness and joy in one day may not be the next. Right. Happiness for you one day may be different the next day. It may not stay the same. It's a concept that you can mold and play with. But thanks for the question. I love when people ask me questions because that really makes for a rich dialogue. Thank you. Cheers. Now I say go out and ask yourself and ponder and engage the concept. Don't just think about the concept. practice it, engage it, experience. What would it be like to experience true happiness or happiness together? What does that feel like? What does it even look like for me? What does it feel like internally to be happy? How do I feel it? Hopefully that helps you. I like when people ask me, what do you think? I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're like, yes, it does. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Gives a shit what I think. What I think's irrelevant. What do you think? What do you feel? Are you living your best life? That's the question. Are you creating? I know what I'm creating. I know what I'm doing. I mean, I tell it to people all the time. You know, at the end of the day, who cares? Hey, Betty, how are you? Um, so find your happiness and also connect. Okay. So this went longer than I thought. You know, I got on here. I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I ended up talking about sexuality and sensuality and connecting to your internal sensuality and allowing that to radiate outwards and then just explode in a cosmic orgasm so that you can allow yourself to expand further in your energy and feel the freedom and connect into the divine. Okay. So there you go. Sorry, it's a big Friday. I'm feeling it, you guys. I'm feeling it. Spring is here and I'm feeling ready to dance. Go dance this weekend. I don't even care if it's by yourself with the broom while you're cleaning. Put on music. Allow yourself to just go free. Dance like nobody's watching and ask yourself, can I connect this way? And if it's not dance for you and it's something else, okay, so be it. I'm going to dance. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Actually, I'm going to put on music and start dancing around after this. Okay. So there you go. Now you know what I'm up to. Love you guys. Have the best Friday ever. And I think I kind of like talking about this topic. I think this is something that needs to be discussed. Okay. Love you guys. Mean it. Yes. Living your best life. Amen. Living my life like it's golden. Living my life like it's golden. Living my life like it's golden. Natalie, down solid time. I look like a crazy woman sometimes. Yeah, me too. I don't care. Live your best life, people. Okay. Mwah. I love you guys. Have a good day. Bye bye.